Right now I got a stun on every word, cause this is my comfort zone. Really, like the split, really, in her, it's healing me. Take a hit, let it chill.
Yes, thank you all for tuning in with me. Today, tonight, or whatever time of the day you are listening to the Creative Lips Podcast, guys. Yes, guys, you are listening to the Creative Lips Podcast, and this is episode number 74, guys. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, guys, and I am your host, Regina. Yes, I appreciate all of the new listeners and all of the active listeners. Yes, I appreciate you all tuning in with me and giving me your undivided attention. Yes, I appreciate y'all listening to this episode. Yo, come on now. Yo, you guys have been showing me genuine love and support. I appreciate all of the new followers also on my Instagram. Yes, I do. Yes, I appreciate you all. And you know, the topic that I wanted to talk about today, because it's something that I've been wanting to do, for years too, and wanting to start my business. And although I had, a couple of businesses back in the day, but however, this is one of my dreams that I always wanted to start. It is my own vintage, vintage clothing and, other things as well. That is still under wraps that, I am in the works of doing. So I'm going to be talking about that today.
Sorry, baby,
how about you? Is it something that you have been dreaming about and anything that you wanted to do? Just start a business today. Well, I'm going to get into talking about that today. All right. Now let's start. Yes, guys. So, just like I said, it's a topic that, has been weighing on me really, really deeply, guys. Real deep. And, I have started some things, been brainstorming and, talking about how can I go about starting my own company, my own vintage company, a small business company. And that's something that I have been, working on for years. Yeah, I've been doing it a little bit off and on the side, using certain apps and, and so forth. But however, I want to do this on my own now, without using a third party to, do shipping and, and so forth. You know what I'm saying? So now, I like to start off my podcast. As any of you know, you have been listening to me. I like to start off my podcast, just by giving words of encouragement. Words that can get you through the day, the week, the time, whatever, you are going through. That whoever is listening to this episode right now, as we speak, only you know what you are going through. Only you know what is faced before you. Whatever situation that you're trying to get out of, that you're trying to stop, that you're trying to overcome. Only you know what is faced before you, what you are battling in your mind. Those thoughts, those things, whatever it is. I hope and pray that you will make it out of that situation and you will see that light at the end of the tunnel and it will work out in your favor the way that you want it to be made out in your favor in the end, guys. Yes, in the end. Yes. All right now, so let's just start talking about it. So the business a business. Yes, your own baby, your own business that you start from the ground up. You know what I'm saying? You know, you may have many questions that you might ask yourself. I know I have a couple of questions that I ask myself that, am I really concerned right now as to starting a new company right now? Is that something that I really want to do right now? You know, I think the world is too unstable with what everything is going on around us. You know, with the pandemic, you know, these new vaccines, it's rolling out, you know, everything that is collapsing in front of me. It may just be too risky right now to start it. Or, you know, just like many of us, like myself, you know, you may have a job right now. You may have a little bit, you know, a 9 to 5. You know what I'm saying? You may have a 9 to 5 job and you really, you know, can't really afford, and you know, you really just don't want to quit that 9 to 5 right now, you know. Or if you start that company, you know, you may not do well. It may fail, and you might be forced to struggle to find something else. Or even if it's not working, it's kind of working or not working, then you may have to find something else on the side to supplement your income. You know, those are some of the thoughts that went through my mind and some of the cons, you know, that I had written down, the pros and the cons about starting a business right now as we speak. So, ever since March of 2000, you know, ever since this pandemic had first hit here in America, small businesses across the country were shutting down in numbers, guys, in droves. And I have talked about this on my podcast before in regards to small business closures, you know, that are happening amid this spreading, you know, coronavirus pandemic, guys. And right now, how crazy am I talking about this right now? You know, some of you may say, why you want to start a business? You know, you get some that even says that to me. You know, why do you want to do this right now? You know, but just like I said, how crazy as it sounds to start a business during an economic collapse, some say that the timing could not have been better. You know what I'm saying? Yes. I said the timing could be better right now. Now, in this episode, I am going to share my thoughts and my opinions on this. And I am also going to talk about 3 major reasons why I feel now and, you know, and how it could be a great time for you to start a business more than ever, guys. So now everything has changed. We all know that everything has changed. And maybe it has not. You know, maybe, you know, we're just looking at the picture in a different way. You know, maybe we probably need to analyze what is going on around us for real. You know what I'm saying? And we may see that it is the best time to start that business right now. You know, no company, of course, we all know, is left untouched, you know, during this pandemic, as we see that a lot of companies, you know, have left and closed up shop. You know, there's nothing that we can do about it to, you know, bring back some of your mom and pop brick and mortar shops that you so love to go to on a daily basis. You know what I'm saying, guys? But, you know, it's a good time to maybe reopen your business, you know, or maybe you can probably see that you can probably just try again. Maybe it's a good time to really reevaluate, what it is that, in fact, that we need to do during this pandemic to start a small business right now. And most of the economy, right now, too, of course, is tanking, all over the world. And a lot of people are trying to cash in many ways, as, we can also see what happened with GameStop, and them buying up stock. And, they're trying to, get ahead, trying to get ahead. A lot of people are really trying to get ahead right now as we speak. And of course, we cannot forget about the massive layoffs and the life changes that none of us could predict none of this. We couldn't predict this at all. So, what about that? But the reasons could be vary. These three major reasons that I'm getting ready to say could be the very motivators and the opportunities that make you successful right now in any venture, any niche, anything that you have always, dreamed of, guys, you never know. So if you are interested in starting one right now, you are not alone. There are so many people that have been working those 9 to 5s, and they say, you know what? These jobs are cutting back hours. The pay is getting less. Just the other day, my company that I worked at are going to take, they're going to take out more money from our pay. You know what I'm saying? Talking about some type of living allowance or city allowance or whatever, whatever. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of companies, that are doing that right now because of this pandemic, And new businesses actually, guys, are forming right now, despite of the pandemic. A lot of people are, opening up shop, and some are reopening up their shops that has closed more than ever, right along with the aid and the help from the government with those PPP loans that they reissued out again. Despite of what's been going on, throughout the country, it is a significant, overwhelming, response that a lot of people are just saying, you know what, I just want to go into, having my own business now. I'm tired of working for people. I'm tired of, making someone else's dream succeed. Even though people are interested in doing that, it is, in fact, right now, significantly slower. It's at a slower rate than before. But however, people are starting their own business in whatever venture, just like I said earlier, that they are interested in. 500,000. This is probably more than this, but 500,000 applications for an employer identification number since the pandemic hit has been skyrocketing right now. And this is according to the Census Bureau. Although that it's down, of course, nearly 30 or 40% from a year ago. But however, people are opening up a lot of businesses. Right now, they're getting business loans, they're getting LLCs, they're getting trademarks. They're doing a lot of things right now as we speak. And they're not afraid to do it. They're taking those risks right now. And a lot of things that people are starting to do, they're opening up business with, acquiring those small business startup loans. There are nearly 300 startup loans worth about $153 million. It's probably more than that right now because the numbers continually to go up on a daily basis. And it also shows that the downturns or challenging times are seen as good times right now. You know what I'm saying? To start a business, these are the major 3 reasons as to why why it's a good time to start a business right now. You know what I'm saying? So now, number 1, right now, this is the reason why. This is the major number 1 that I wanted to share my opinion on, is that it's anyone's game. Anybody can get in right now. Yes, you can get in right now to start your own business right now. Especially, right now during this pandemic, is because this global pandemic has shifted. It has shifted in so many ways. And the meaning of work and personal life from all of us, of course, the shift has created gaps and highlighted a lot of things and it also shows that the systems are outdated. We all know that there are flaws in the system right now. So now that's what makes it anyone's game. Now, this global pandemic, now with work, this is what makes it a best time, because with work, people are working from home, kids are at home, families are going through this transition, this shift, which is changing their day-to-day needs. Even singles are finding new ways to virtually date, guys, and stay connected with friends too as well. There is an opportunity to find a new niche, a new way, a new job, a new idea, across the board, both online and offline, to start a business, guys. Now, if that doesn't motivate you, motivation right now to start a business is on high right now, is at an all-time high. And of course, this creates the perfect storm for innovation and progress, guys. So think about all of the things that is going on right now. And think about what it is that you love to do and what you want to get your foot in the door with, what you dreamt about, and see how it correlates with what is going on now, that you can make money off of starting your business through the pandemic, and also post-pandemic as well. And the next reason why, I feel as though, in my opinion, that it's a good time to start a business is now that services, there are a lot of services that are cheaper right now. There are a lot of things out there that you can buy, to start your business, and it could just be cut, half the price, because these companies are suffering too, so therefore they are trying their best to, open up the doors for this ever exploding, it's exploding right now with people starting their businesses from home. So, as you build your business, you will need to access all of the resources to start your business, like the education materials for yourself, vendors that can provide you the systems to make your business more efficient. Now, if you need to automate your email marketing, there are a lot of free stuff and also stuff that is cheap that you can have access to use. Like, for instance, I don't know if you all familiar with it. If not, MailChimp. MailChimp is a great resource. Now, this is not a sponsored episode. I'm just, basically just giving you some opinions and, giving, an idea of what you can do. And you can also do your own research. I always say that. Make sure you do your own research, because this is strictly just my opinion in regards to how I feel as though that you can start a business, and if you want to start a business. But however, MailChimp is a very good resource to use. If you want to send out a blast email to your clients in regards to what's on sale or new businesses opening. And if you also need help with designing social media, there is a service that I've been using for years. I love this service. It's called Canva. Canva is a very good service to do all your type of graphics for. You can use it for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and you can just create a post and put in your graphics as to whatever you are selling or what you want to portray to your audience, so that can draw them in a colorful way. And also, they also have videos too as well that you can use. But I since have moved on from Canva, and I use another site, and another site that is also free, because just like I said, some of them are free as well. PicMonkey. PicMonkey is awesome. They have awesome clips, videos, and, a lot of things that you can use to promote your business. And you can also use people who are freelancers too as well. Like, you never know. You might have a friend that's good at graphic designing, and they can probably do something for you for free. You never know. Or you could just give them a little bit of money on the side just to do your logo for your business. Many of these companies right now are providing, just like I said, they are providing a promotional pricing because, they are suffering too as well. So they want to draw you in, customers like you, new entrepreneurs like you in. And many sites and blogs are also providing educational content for free. Yes, they are. There's a lot of them that I've seen out there that are providing free content and topics like digital marketing and customer acquisition to help your business grow. And also, you can get yourself a free website too as well if you can't just fork out that monthly bill or that yearly bill to pay for your domain right now as we speak. But it is good to have a domain. You can buy that, so that nobody else won't snatch it up or whatever. But another website to use that I love is Wix. Wix is a very good website. I started off using Wix years ago for my music website, and I'm still using it for my music brand. It's a very good website to create your website if you don't know too much about HTML and, developing websites. Somebody who's new to the game, I think that is a phenomenal. Wix.com is a phenomenal platform. And just like I said, none of this is sponsored. Wix is a phenomenal platform to use if you're a newbie and, just trying to get your foot into the door, and you want to have, something to showcase people out there, your clients or, whatever, so that they can be engaging. And you can be shown to everyone that you are a professional, that you're really serious about your shit. You know what I'm saying? So check Wix out too as well. This is also an opportunity to take advantage of, the small business deals, just like I said, currently available. And it's another one that it could be for online advertising as well as small business trials they might have, for team messaging and video conferencing like Zoom. I know you all are familiar with Zoom right now. You can use that too as well. And there is so much more. The list goes on and on and on. You know what I'm saying? On and on and on, guys. And you don't have to have that brick and mortar in the front. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to have that right now. Dream to have it. Of course, if that's something that you would like to do, start your business from home. Everyone is home right now, and you can also, if you don't have like the equipment to use, you can also buy your equipment used. You know what I'm saying, guys? Yes, you can. You can buy your equipment used. It's a lot of things that you can do to start your business right now. You don't have to fork out a lot of money to do it, but you have to do some, what I'm saying? Because you have to invest into yourself, and then you can also barter, bartering. Remember how we used to do back in the day? Like, look, I'll do this for you if you do that for me. You know what I'm saying? You can also do that. And if you're not ready to give up that 9 to 5, you're not ready to give it up. You can keep your job and then you can do your other dream job or your whole job. You know what I'm saying? The job that you want to do full time, your business, you can do that part time, guys. Yes. You know what I'm saying? So, there is a lot of things that you can do. You don't have to stop, starting your business just because you feel as though that, I need to buy this. I don't have any money to do that. There's a lot of things that you can do to take advantage of all of these free things that are out there right now. And all these low cost things that are out there right now. I'm telling you, now is the time, guys. Now is the time to start. And last but not least, of course, think about it, guys. There will be a huge shift after post-COVID, guys. Yes, it will. Think about it. When all is said and done, the pandemic will not last forever. It won't. As much as, right now, some may feel that it will, like it will, but it's not going to last forever. Companies, there are a lot of companies that have made their businesses responsive to the current climate, and they were very adaptable to the change in that pandemic. They will thrive in this pandemic. So think about it. Once this pandemic is lifted, your business will thrive. Your business will explode once the pandemic is over. So the pandemic, as much as it's been difficult for all of us, and overwhelming, can also be an opportunity to position your company, your business for the future right now. You can really sit down and brainstorm and watch the trends, in your niche or whatever you are interested in. And you can take the time and reflect and adapt to the post-COVID-19 world, guys. This provides you a valuable lead time to build up your customer base, refine your sales strategy, and even level up your local media game on social media right now. Because everybody's on there. Everybody, including their mama. You know what I'm saying? So true. So think about it, because once the economy starts to shift again, you will be ready to ride that wave, man. You'll be ready to ride that wave. And of course, if you do this, this will be the best thing that can ever happen to you, that you ever could dream of. So start it now, guys. Now, there are a lot of businesses, a lot of companies that have been successful during difficult times. Venmo was one of them. Uber was another one. And they founded their business being successful during a financial crisis, a major crisis. This is the time to get started and go after that business you always wanted and dreamt of doing, guys. So it may be some time. Now, I want to tell you all this, that it may be some time before everything gets to where you want it to be. It's going to be some time, because nothing happens overnight, guys. We all know that. Nothing happens overnight. Some may not know that. Some may think some things just happen. And for some, if you are that lucky, you know what I'm saying? And it may happen overnight for you. You never know. So start that small, business. And I always say, this is something that I did in the past. I started small. So start small by buying at least some items, that you might need. Just put it out there to the public. Showcase it, film it, take pictures of it, whatever you are selling, buying, whatever, or just have that one client, one or two clients at a time. This way you can get your dream out there for, just like I said, the world to see. And you never know, it might take off. So start now, guys. Start now. Start now, guys. And, just take your time too as well. Take your time, brainstorm, think about what it is and that you want to do. That you want to do on a daily basis. And go for it. You never know what could happen. All right, guys. Now off to my Monday Soundoff randomness. Yes, just a little bit, about the latest, viral news or, and a little bit about me. Coming down from my weekend was very productive. Just like I said, I'm, getting everything for my small business and just doing things slowly. And I'm not really, rushing into it, but however, I am starting it. And I am happy to start my small business, guys. That's something that I always wanted to do, just like I said, right along with what I'm doing right now. Trying to move closer and closer to that entrepreneur side. You know what I'm saying? I want to do that. You know what I'm saying? And, and it's happening. And I'm happy because I'm doing everything that I said that I am going to do, I'm writing this down and it's manifesting, and it's really blowing my mind actually just to see that everything that I've written down is manifesting in my life. And I love it. I love to see it. It's phenomenal. It blows my mind. It's interesting. And, and that's something that I am, enjoy doing every day. I enjoy doing this every day. Putting together the clothes, curated vintage clothes, and also, brainstorming other things that I'm trying to do as an add-on bonus to the business, guys. I cannot wait. Once I get everything together, I cannot wait to talk to you guys about it. And that's going to be my sponsor. That's going to be my sponsor when I talk about it on this podcast, guys. So, and if you're interested in sponsoring it, I will be sure to let you know if you want to sponsor that business, the other side of the business once you get everything together. But however, it's coming along and I'm happy that it is. And, another thing that I want to talk about too, a lot of things that went viral is the Wendy Williams. You know what I'm saying? I watched it. I saw it. I saw the Wendy Williams biopic. And it was rather interesting to me. I can honestly say I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the actors that played both Wendy and Kevin. And I think they were phenomenal, guys. They were great. I think they did a good job. They did her justice, and they did, I guess they did Kevin's justice. From what I've heard, that Kevin, he didn't have a say in who was to play him and, and his mannerism and so forth. The actress that played Wendy Williams is Sierra Payton. And Sierra Payton, she has been acting in movies and television for over a decade, guys. And it's crazy, and I think that she did a phenomenal, tribute. She did a phenomenal way to portray Wendy Williams in her biopic. And I read a little bit more into her and her, her credits and stuff. And she acted in the movie. She was appearing in shows such as Graceland, The Walking Dead, Ballers. And, currently right now she is acting in the cast of the BET movie or the television show, or rather, whatever it's called, The Oval. And, but however, I felt as though that, in my opinion, that she was spot on. She was spot on with her character. Definitely spot on. And the other actor who portrayed Kevin Hunter, his name is Morocco Amari. And he is also best known, by playing in Empire. That's what I remember him from, playing Empire. And he was also in Homeland, P-Valley, 21 Bridges. He had a recent working with, Chadwick Boseman in that, in 21 Bridges. And I think he did, a phenomenal role. He was really good playing in it. And, and just like I said, he did not, the real Kevin Hunter didn't have any input in the biopic. So, Morocco Amari just went off his mannerisms of videos that he's seen online of Kevin Hunter. And, but I feel as though he did a good job, just by looking at just that stuff briefly. And, the movie was very, at times it was very sad, as she, endured, most of the things that she had been through, her anxiety and then the drug use and, and her, being, sexually assaulted. And I feel as though that, Wendy Williams, in my opinion, I feel as though that she wanted to tell us what she wanted to tell us. And some of the things, I read some people were saying some of the things, we already knew. And if you read her book, because she does have a book out, if you read her book, which I know is going to be flying off the shelves once again, that, is more tea in that book, if you want to know. Because everything in that movie she talked about in her book, and there were people out there basically saying that they wanted to hear more. They wanted, it should have been longer, because Wendy Williams is a staple icon, and for her come up, they wanted to see more for her having that come up in the broadcasting industry, because she's a trendsetter. She's the one that started Hot Topics. She's the one that talked about celebrity, the black community, what's going on. Because the tabloids back in the day, they only talked about the counterparts, what I'm saying? They only talked about the, white, actors and actresses and singers and so forth, what's going on in their life, what, skeletons they had in their closet, and Wendy Williams had talked about the black community. She talked about what's going on in the black community, all of the tea, as what's going on. And, she was trendsetting for that. And from that point on, a lot of people took to the blogs, they wanted to be like that, but in their own way. And if it wasn't for Wendy Williams, we would not have a Shade Room. We would not have a Boss Up. We would not have Jasmine Brand. We would not have none of these blogs or these gossip things to, just talking about the black community and the music industry and acting and so forth. We wouldn't have that if it wasn't for Wendy Williams, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. We wouldn't have this right now. So I feel as though that, the movie I think that's all we need to know, but some may disagree with me. Some may want to hear more. But what more do you want to hear, of her life? And I think that, she, just like I said, she wanted to tell us what she wanted to tell us. And there you have it. That's what she wanted to tell us. So I guess as time goes on, I feel as though that Wendy Williams needs to heal because she is still hurt, over the situation that has happened, by her husband cheating on her, after all those years and her knowing about that, is very sad. And also the stuff that she had experienced in her sexual assault, and the drug use, although she hasn't said in the movie and even after when they did that interview about, her drug abuse, she hasn't admitted and said that she was a drug addict. She never once said that. But however, I hope that Wendy Williams, continues on to heal and her health gets better and, and she's there for her son, because I know that's her son is her world. And, just like my children is my world. And, and as a parent, you want to be the best that you can be, for your children. So, that's my take on Wendy Williams' biopic. And, I just found it interesting that Lifetime is shifting their gears into, talking about, the Black community and, showcasing different biopics and such. And they have another biopic coming up right after that one. Is the Whitney Houston. I'm not watching that. It's nothing against it or nothing like that, but it's just that I just feel as though that Whitney Houston, she just needs to rest. Bobby Christina needs to rest. That whole situation, just let them rest. You know what I'm saying? Just let them rest in power, and I think they just leave it alone. But then somebody told me, somebody that's a fan of Whitney Houston, they said, well, the fans want to know. Her fans, her supporters, I like to call them fans. Her supporters want to know. So that's why they keep on bringing it up. And I think they're going to bring it up until they can't bring it up no more. Whatever new evidence or whatever news that they get on Whitney Houston, they're just going to keep on talking about it until they can't talk about it no more. So, yeah. All right, guys. So, yes, there you have it. So, yeah. So now, are we here for it? Or are we not here for you starting your business right now? Or for anyone, even if it's not you, or anyone that or anyone that wants to start a business. Are you here for it or are you not here for it? I know I'm definitely here for it to start a business right now. I'm so excited, and I'm excited for you. If you chose this time to start your journey into being an entrepreneur in whatever talent or whatever, niche that you might have, and you are interested in doing it during this pandemic, yes, I'm definitely here for it. And, hey, take your time, guys. Do one thing at a time. We are also in a Mercury retrograde too as well. Yes, we are. And guys, I appreciate all of you listening to this episode number 74. Yes, be sure to follow me on my Instagram, guys. Follow me at CreativeLipsPodcast on Instagram. And also, don't forget to subscribe and follow a sister. I'm everywhere. I'm also on YouTube, guys. Still working on trying to upload all my videos, my favorite videos of my podcast on YouTube. Follow me there. And also, don't forget to leave me a review, guys. Yes, and that 5-star rating. Don't forget to do that, guys. And also follow me on Twitter. Because you want to know what, guys? I post stuff there too. All right. Until next time.
This is an intro to Urban Jazz. Sorry, baby, every time I smell loud. My bad.
You are now listening to episode 74 of the Creative Lips Podcast.